Hello, hey everyone. Welcome to the second NLP Insider live show, and thank you so much for joining us. We will be here live every other week for 15 minutes to talk about everything NLP with industry leaders. I'm David Talby, CTO at Johnson Labs, and today I'm very excited to welcome Elif Ozkirimli, Head of Data Science and Advanced Analytics in the Pharma International Data and Analytics chapter at Roche. Roche is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. Elif will be presented at our upcoming Healthcare NLP Summit on April 5th and April 6th, where she will discuss internal NLP capabilities at Roche and the latest NLP research areas that aim to address data sparsity by loss function manipulation and data augmentation. Today, she is here to share her insights and give a small preview of what you can look forward to. I'm very happy to have you with us. Elif, welcome. And please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you very much, David. It's a pleasure to be here. So I am the head of Data Science Advanced Analytics in the Pharma International Informatics Data and Analytics chapter, where we're working on delivering data and analytics products that use internal and external data to provide improved patient outcomes. And prior to joining Roche, I was a professor of chemical engineering at Boğaziçi University, where we worked on applications of AI and NLP in the protein compound interaction prediction space. And I have a PhD in structural biology from Purdue. So it's a pleasure to be here.
And thank you for taking the time. So this is your the first time you jump to industry from academia?
That's right.
Okay.
2 years, and I'm happy to be here, yeah.
Yeah, welcome to, to have made the jump.
I did.
Yeah. So let's jump right in. So tell us a bit what is data sparsity and why is it a challenge in the healthcare industry in particular?
Sure. So maybe data sparsity, data imbalance, class imbalance, these are some of the topics that we can cover. And so collecting and labeling data, biomedical data, is expensive, meaning it's experimentally difficult sometimes, and also labeling is expensive because it requires domain expertise. So making most efficient use of the available data becomes a challenge, right? So let me give you 3 quick examples for this. Mm-hmm. One of them could be drug discovery, for example. So there are many tools for AI-based drug discovery that rely on this available knowledge space of protein compound interactions, but a complete sampling of this knowledge space is difficult or sometimes impossible for some of these proteins and compounds. Mm-hmm. So it leads to an oversampling of some of those interactions, whereas an undersampling of some others. Similarly, for patient data, for example, the key to understanding the global burden of disease is to collect as much data as possible to follow patient journeys in different populations, but patient data, the collected patient data, is not representative with a fair or balanced distribution. Mm-hmm. And some populations are oversampled, some are undersampled, so that's another example. And another example, again, is scientific publications, searching through that scientific publication space, because some topics, for example, can be very popular, right? So, for example, there has been an explosion in COVID-19 related scientific publications. And finding the information, the relevant information within the scientific publications becomes, again, a needle in a haystack problem, mm-hmm. Because some of the areas are oversampled and some others are undersampled. So the challenge then becomes, as I mentioned, finding that needle in a haystack such that we can make use of the efficient use of the available data. So this is what I mean when I talk about imbalance, class imbalance, data sparsity.
Yep. So serious problems in practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So can you tell us a bit more about how your research helps address some of these issues?
Mm-hmm. So our research is actually driven by the use cases that we receive in the chapter, right? So, and most of the time, we see that the available data is either insufficient and or doesn't cover the whole landscape with equal distribution. So we use methods such as data augmentation. This is a very commonly used method. Or loss function manipulation, where the aim is to address class imbalance by such that the performance increases even for the tail samples for which there's not enough data for that class. Or debiasing, these inherently inherent models that inherently include debiasing, because oversampling sometimes also leads to memorizing by the machine learning model, right?
Yep.
So these surface patterns are easy to detect, or easy to, let's say, pick up by the machine learning models. So we proposed inherently in debiasing methods to avoid this, let's say, memorization problem. We also use active learning, which is taking advantage of the fact that we do have the subject matter expertise at Roche, right? So that we can include human in the loop. And for cases where the algorithm fails, or where it's at the decision boundary, where it can't make a decision. So active learning is also one approach that we use to address these problems.
So you use active learning basically to decide, for example, when you do data augmentation, what to augment?
For example, yes.
Yeah.
Or let's say for classification, we use, let's say you have, I don't know, 10 classes, and there are some cases where the algorithm cannot decide, then the subject matter expert comes into the picture to make that decision.
Yeah.
Exactly, and adds that data to the data set.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think, there are two cases. One is when you say you have a classification problem, you come to look, I know that I'm low confidence of these classes, right? And that's when I need to add data. I think, the other interesting thing in healthcare, sometimes that, as you said, there are some patient populations which are just not there, right? Because they do not have access to healthcare, they do not show up in surveys, right? And then also, you need someone external to come in, hey, you're actually not doing that well on the general population, right, with this bias model. Yeah.
This is actually a huge problem. I mean, this bias in the data collection, inherent bias in the data collection, just because those patients do not have access, so you don't have any data on them.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think one of the things I've heard people say in healthcare is basically like all healthcare models are biased, right? You just, if you tend on any set of patients, it's really important to know who they are, right? Because probably your model will only work on them.
Well, then it relies on the experts to make sure that the data collection is performed well, or if it cannot be, then you need to make sure that the model takes that into account, right? The fact that piece of the puzzle is missing is taken into account. So it becomes basically an intelligent, a more intelligent.
More intelligent, yes. Yeah. Interesting. So more broadly, what kind of trends do you see for NLP in healthcare, in the healthcare industry for the next 3 to 5 years?
Okay, great question. So I was thinking about this question, 3 to 5 years, and I did mention to you what happened 3 to 5 years ago in NLP, right?
Okay.
And so the Attention is All You Need paper was published in 2017, the BERT paper in 2018. So when you reflect back to 3 to 5 years ago, the whole field sort of changed, right?
Completely.
So it's very hard to make a prediction for what's going to happen in 3 to 5 years. So the short answer is I don't know, but I can speculate, right? So let's see if some of my speculations turn out okay. So I'm thinking that the large language models are here to stay for a while because they empower most of the tools that we use today. And as a team, we love participating in these challenges, in these open science challenges. And it's usually the large language model plus some fine tuning that perform the highest in these challenges. So they do achieve high performance, right? And we also see these approaches being applied to other domains like computer vision, etc. So I think they are here to stay for the time being. But having said that, they are black boxes, right? So now the risks of these large language models are being recognized. And so the field is focusing on moving to building these inherently interpretable models that also take into account these human values like safety or environmental sustainability, etc. Right? And here the path forward will be hybrid approaches where human-computer interaction, human-computer hybrid approaches are going to be key, and more of an interdisciplinary kind of approach where user experience, adoption, ethics are also going to be taken into account. So I see more focus on that. And the other thing that I also find fascinating, I don't know if this is going to be a trend or not, but current state-of-the-art models rely on these compute resources, right? So large compute resources, ever larger neural networks, ever deeper learning. And what's fascinating to me is the mathematical foundation that ties all of this to make more computationally elegant models. So I see a trend toward, for example, these graph-based methodologies or geometric learning that takes the latent data, the latent information in the data into account. So these are some of the trends that I find interesting, but we'll see if my speculations turn out okay.
Yeah, predictions are very hard, especially about the future, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah, but I agree with you on large language models. I think first of all, I think just academically, it's super interesting, open questions. Kind of, why do they work, right? And how can you have, as you say, a more elegant understanding, right, of how you capture, human language, right, and semantics of it. Yeah, because often yes, they seem to work, but as you say, it's very much a black box. So I think that's very interesting. Other than that, I also agree. I don't know what will happen with large language models, because I think this year we start seeing some papers. Yeah, we can get much smaller models that can give you equal performance in many cases.
Yeah.
Right. So I think to me it's unclear if 5 years from now, if we still have those terabyte-sized models, or we'll actually come and say, oh no, those are the first experiments. Now we actually most things you can load on your laptop, right? Maybe maybe it's 10 or 20 gigabytes, but it's not. It will go back to reasonable sizes, and I think it will be interesting to see what happens. So one more thing I'd like to discuss. So one of the interesting topics you'll be covering in your talk at the Healthcare NLP Summit is open science and community building. Can you just share a bit about what you think is the biggest value of sharing resources among the community?
Okay, so when I thought about value, I thought about a human value, which is sharing is caring, right? So
sure, yes.
This is the part of the community building that makes mankind or humankind, let's say, move forward. So
absolutely. I think we should all do more, apply more kindergarten practices. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. But there are two sides of this. Maybe I can answer about the internal community that we have tried to build and why we wanted to build an internal NLP engine that is using these modular pieces of code base that is made accessible to the larger community within the company, so that we can reuse the code. Because our aim within the IT, as I said, I'm part of the IT organization, we try to build these scalable products. And if we can build these frameworks that are reusable, that's a huge advantage in onboarding of data science projects. But the other side of the coin is also open science, right? So we are very committed to making sure that all of our papers are publicly available. We post on archive, we post our codes on the code repos. So we always welcome also collaborations with other academics or researchers. So there are two sides of community building exercise that we try to focus on as a team.
Very interesting. Yeah, and I agree also. I think for us, we do a lot of work both academically and in open source. And you can see, yes, part of it, but I think I agree. It's more basic than that. It's really just doing the right thing and just seeing the whole industry progress faster.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a very strong, very strong positive thing too. Yeah. So, Elif, thank you very much for joining us today. And everyone, be sure to catch Elif's session at the Healthcare NLP Summit, where we also have more than 30 additional talks from industry leaders focused on applied natural language processing. So actual case studies, best practices, and how some of the new state-of-the-art research innovations are actually being applied in practice, especially in healthcare and life science. So we'll be covering deep learning, transfer learning, the latest open source libraries, models, transformers that you can use today to get your projects done faster and better. We'll drop a link in the chat here so you can register. Thank you very much for joining us today, Elif, and I greatly hope you enjoyed our chat.
It's been my pleasure meeting you, David, and it's been a pleasure to chat about this topic. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you.